Welcome to Talk of the Bay. This is Talk of the Bay's Behind the Mic, and for a little change of pace, we've put Behind the Mic's host, Christine Barrington, on the other side of the board. I'm today's host, Suki Wessling of the Babblery, and I am interviewing Christine ahead of the debut of her new talk show at KSQD, which is called the Apocalyptic Supper Club. Welcome, Christine.
Thanks, Suki. What a pleasure to be here.
It's really fun to be back here. I'm here with all my flashing lights and meters and stuff, and Christine's just kicking back.
Nice. It's so relaxing.
Because Christine's been really working hard. You have a new show, Apocalyptic Supper Club. Tell us a little bit about what it is.
Thank you, Suki. Well, it's a mouthful, right? The Apocalyptic Supper Club, nourishment for dire times. And the reason I call it that is it's sort of at many levels, but most important, it's that for us to show up when times are so hard, I believe we have to be fed many, many more stories, many, many more ideas and strategies that actually lift us up and make us feel better. So much political news and political talk is really quite depressing. It fills us with fear and uncertainty. It impacts our neurochemistry and instills what I call civic learned helplessness. People kind of check out, and we need them to check in and find joy in getting involved. So they need to get nourished. And so it's a supper club. It's going to all kinds of beautiful, tasty things. And I'm so uplifted by the people I'm studying and learning about.
I love that phrase, learned civic helplessness. Was that
Civic
it?
learned helplessness.
Civic learned helplessness.
Yeah.
Explain that.
Well, we're probably going to talk about this a little bit, or maybe I'll just cover it right now. My training actually is in psychology, and I worked in the field of addiction and recovery. I worked in the carceral system, and so I know a lot about trauma and its impact on the brain. And it is well known that when children are developing, if they're constantly having negative experiences and not being helped through things, they develop a sort of set of behaviors that's called learned helplessness. And I observe that in the American electorate my whole life. I've been listening to people talk about politics around the table, and I observed there was always a lot of complaining and negativity. And even as a kid, I would say, like, well, let's do something. Let's do something. And they'd say, nah, nothing can be done. You know, those politicians, ... And it took me a long time to think, like, this can't be true. But it was really hard to know what we could do. So I started digging and decided that what we needed to do, and what I learned from working with women who, the women I worked with in our local jails, had a dual diagnosis, PTSD and addiction. And what we really saw was that, you know, these people were addicted because they were trying to self-medicate. They had these overwhelming symptoms. But when we empowered them through all kinds of education and we provided them ways to feel competent and successful, this program, it's called GEMMA. And the GEMMA program reduced recidivism by 72%.
Wow,
it's pretty
that's
stunning.
amazing.
Yeah. And like this station, it was almost entirely volunteer run. And so it was full of a lot of heart and a lot of passion, people who really cared. And those women who were in our local jail, they applied and then they got into the program and they applied themselves. And I really saw some miraculous changes.
That's amazing.
And I hope that for our civic body as well.
Yeah, well, in our civic body, except for the people who are working in our government, we are all volunteers, right? You do not have to vote or be politically involved to live in this country. So all of us who are involved are volunteers and amateurs doing it literally because we love the country and the people around us and we want it to be a better place.
Right. And most of the people that I've encountered in my lifetime are very, very fine people, regardless of what aisle, which aisle they saunter down, what they wear as they saunter down the political aisle. Most people are really fine people, and but a lot of people really don't understand how to be a member of the demos, how to actually really be involved. For us to have the country that we want, like we were just listening to Tom Hartman, and he was reading from this book about the Trump voters who were really excited. They thought change was coming. Now, change has come. I don't know if it was the change they were hoping for, but I think for us to have the country that really works for our values, we have to be involved. We have to know how to organize, and we need to learn how to work as a body. And we need to get educated, and that streams of education are just pouring inspiration, knowledge, and strategy into the collective pool. There's nothing to prevent us from getting that education. But we also need to ask ourselves, how can I get involved in our political system, in our system, and have it be good for me? If you ask yourself that question and you take a little time to think about it and journal and try to discover what lights me up, what's a cause I believe in, and here's also the key. It only takes us getting involved with one thing that we're really excited about. Plug into the environment, plug into education, plug into, seniors, rights for elders, whatever lights you up. Just choose one and then figure out a way to do it that it really makes you feel good, and insist that it is a way that makes you feel good. Because if you do that, you will keep doing that. And that's what we need. We need to be involved for the long haul, and we can only do that if we feel some joy.
Yeah. You say you're using, well, that was the can, by the way.
Hydrate. Sorry. So sorry.
That was quite a sound through the mic. I was
so
like,
sorry.
whoa, that was quite a sound effect. You've been using these words that I think are really interesting. When you talked about the learned helplessness, I was thinking about something I heard on the radio. I was listening to some political show on the way here, and someone said something just casually about over half of Americans voted for, and it's like, no,
not accurate.
No.
Are you talking about Donald Trump?
But even we don't. Over half of us don't even vote.
No.
So the lack of participation, where do you think that comes from?
Well, I would say it's a few things. One is that we don't actually have a government that really wants citizens involved. If they did, we would teach children. We would get them really excited about our system by teaching them about it in ways that are really fun. Like, I imagine whoever's listening right now, they might be reflecting on their civics courses. And for me, it was so boring. The book, the books that we would have to read. And, but if we taught our children through games, through them actually enacting like quasi-political campaigns in school, and we made it exciting and we showed them this is how power works, and you have a birthright to be involved. And it's much more than voting. Voting is the very last little bit of being a member of a democracy. But you've got to, just like children need enrichment and citizens need enrichment. We need to be enriched and nourished.
Yeah, and you also used, very emotionally full words like where you find joy. And can you talk a little bit about how the psychology of motivation works into what you're doing with the show?
Well, yeah. I mean, the things that regulate our nervous system are the things that we feel attracted to. Now, that goes for people. So we tend to hook up with the people that make us feel good And the reason we feel good, sometimes it's not a good reason, sometimes it's an addictive reason, but by and large, the people we really want to be around are people that regulate our nervous system because we feel better around them. And so to be engaged, I talk about, it's all psychological, and it starts with what I call inner activism, which is learning how to manage and deal with what's happening inside of you through how you're wiring your brain and what chemicals you're running in your brain. So it's like a three-legged stool. We have to address inner activism, then we have to address our community and our relationships. And I believe that we cannot be a powerful democracy unless we're operating within a community. And that means really deliberately engaged with people that we meet with regularly somehow. And then the third part is we have to be involved in a strategy that we have some confidence will work. Now, all three of these things involve powerful neurochemicals. If we are feeling that we can win, we're going to feel better. And interestingly enough, you forwarded me an absolutely terrific article by an author named Christopher Armitage. And it was brilliant. And he nailed it. And the title of the article was, "Racists Are Less Depressed Than You Are." Okay, and I was like, hallelujah, people are talking about this. This is so important, and it's shocking because we want to think that being moral makes you feel better, but it's complex. It's not simple. And so what he explained, and he was right, is that when people feel one up, they feel dominant, they feel like they're winning, they're running a lot of really powerful neurochemicals that make them feel really, really good. Now, everyone around them feels like that. Everyone around them, there's a button, Suki, in case I don't behave myself. Everyone around them does not feel so good, but they feel on top of the world. Does that remind you of anyone right now? And so
actually quite a few people, because I feel like this is a growing societal issue in our culture, and we can talk about that, but I just feel like it's almost contagious that when we see other people acting out, I'm seeing people, not just the person we're referring to, but even people on the other side of the political spectrum acting out more, in a sense of this sort of reverberation of this, the negativity that everybody's just like, well, I'm going to hit back harder.
Yeah, to some extent, you get this short-term hit. That fighting can make you feel good for a moment, and then later you often don't feel so good. But people that have certainty, and often people that are striking out feel very certain of what they're doing, they are running chemicals that make them feel good. It's evolutionary. And there's a very interesting acronym from an excellent book called Your Brain at Work. It's written by a guy named David Rock. And I loved it. It came out years ago. I don't know, maybe 20 years ago. And the acronym is SCARF. So there's status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. And he's like, when any one of these is out of balance, when you feel your status is being threatened, you go into fight or flight. Okay, when you feel certainty is being threatened, you go into fight or flight. Autonomy, if you're not relatedness, if you're not being related with, your nervous system's going to start to activate, and if you're not treated fairly. Now, I ask you and our listeners to just contemplate how much in our lives today are those 5 things threatened, okay? So we are actually, most of us in this culture are going around with much higher levels of activation than we should be, and we're so used to it. It's that frog in the pot. And that's why I am stressing nourishment, joy, connection, because the antidote to being one up is being centered and feeding yourself with things that really, really light you up and give you energy. It's a different dance, and it's a healthier dance. And for people that have this desire, they have empathy, which we all know what Elon Musk thinks about it, that's an illness in this culture, that empathy is an illness. But actually, for people who are empathetic, they're hurting right now. And the way out of that is through empowerment and joy and doing things that really light you up.
Yeah, so I'm talking to Christine Barrington, who is sort of super volunteer here. And we're talking about Christine's forthcoming book, which is Apocalyptic's book. Christine, I just had you writing a book. Christine's forthcoming show, which is Apocalyptic Supper Club. And we will be back in just a minute to talk more about the show and what got Christine to this point. Back in a minute. All right, we are back. I am here. I am your host, Suki Wessling, and I'm doing a Talk of the Bay behind the mic with Christine Barrington. And I'm going to take just a minute to familiarize you, if you don't know, because Christine has been, well, I met Christine on my initiation here, which my orientation, which was in 2019. And Christine was doing one show, then Christine moved to doing Talk of the Bay. Christine was on the board for a while. She was the volunteer coordinator. She was just, when I got here, producing our new rebooted film review show, which you are going to hear at the end of this hour. So super volunteer. And Christine has been working on this show idea since I'm trying to remember when you first told me about it, but it was a while back, and I know how hard you've been working on it because I've been helping you with your website and stuff. Apocalyptic Supper Club, and it's going to be starting
this Friday at 5 p.m.
All right, this Friday at 5 p.m. It is going to be on 1 or 2 Fridays a month for the first
We're
month
working
or so.
it out.
Yeah.
Y'all will hear about it, and it'll be on the website. And
Yeah.
it'll be on KSQD, and then there is also the Apocalyptic Supper Club website, which will have all my shows plus blogs where I am writing. I'm uploading resources.
Mm-hmm.
So my goal is to resource people. This is because when we listen to the news, we get really depressed. And I'm like, you know what? Tune out of that and tune into what you can do, what can inspire you, all toward leading to strategic actions that we can take, things that will actually lead to building power for the people. And so nourish yourself. And you can do that at my website. And there'll be just resources being added very, very regularly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I wanted to, you already mentioned little Christine. Little Christine had a cute little voice. But you have had I would say, well, I don't think people should ever judge people just, when they first meet them, but you seem to have depths and depths of your experience. So
That's kind.
I only found out recently that you and I are co-high school dropouts from high school straight to college.
Yep.
So,
Year and a half of high school straight to college.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So talk a little bit about your early years and what you thought, where you thought you might be now, and how you got here.
I'm the daughter of, my mother was born in Berlin in 1941. My grandfather died on the Russian front. And my mother's mother was a real appreciator of Adolf Hitler. She loved him till the day she died. And my mother was quite different. My mother left Germany when she was 19, came here with my sister, and I was literally raised on documentaries about the war. Raised on documentaries about the Holocaust. And so my little child heart, seeing documentaries about civil rights, we watched Roots, and I was riveted, all of it. And so I think it did something to my child heart where I was like, why didn't people do something? Why didn't people stop this? And it was just a huge passion for me. And so I've always been trying to answer that question. And I've always been really concerned that we would find ourselves at a similar threshold. Mm-hmm. And we are most definitely at a similar threshold. Yeah. So that's what inspired me. And then all my life, I'm just a very curious person that wants to know how things work, but most importantly, how the human psyche works. And that's why I studied psychology. But what I realized right when I was about to get licensed and all of that, I thought, we have enough therapists. I need to take this and apply it toward what's causing Americans to be so disengaged, because I've always been worried. I've been, it feels like the climate crisis has been going on forever and we've been dithering and not doing anything. And I'm like, look, if more of us were just involved, we could solve this. And frankly, as discouraged as I am about Donald Trump being elected once and then twice, wow, has there been an explosion of amazing civic organizations. There's been nothing like this in my lifetime. I don't know if I'm an optimist, so I'm like, we can find our way through. And we do have the skills and the knowledge to do this if more people do it. And the show that I'm going to do on Friday is about an organization that is just phenomenal in the realm of relational organizing, the skills they teach, the education they offer, the support they give you. And it's all about get involved and bring your friends with you. That's the right idea.
Yes, well, that's the supper club part of it. And I wanted to ask you, well, I'm going to ask you about the supper club later, but because I want to stay on this idea of the psychology of it. And I know I heard Bill McKibben here on KSQD recently, and he has really changed his tune and is asking other environmentalists to do so, to be more forward-looking and positive about the future. And tell me why. I mean, because we are all of us who are concerned. So the environment's a really good example, but also politics. We love to complain. We love to moan about it. We love to look at our neighbor's gas guzzling SUV. Not that I'm talking about any of my neighbors, and talk about them, but we don't use that joy and the anticipation and the hope that we really need to use. So talk about that.
It's essential. It's blown my mind. I'm like, why are people so negative? It's actually really natural. So the brain has a negative bias. It's evolutionary. So we are built to look for the things that are going to hurt us, the things that are going to put us in danger. And get this, it takes 1 second to lay down in permanent memory a negative experience. 1 second. It takes 12 seconds to lay down in permanent memory a positive experience. Now, when I hear things like that, what my little soul says is, great, then let's marinate 12 times longer on the things that are good. There's a Yale study that came out a long time ago, and they had the study participants simply look for one thing each day that was working, that was going right. And they found at the end of the month, the brain had changed and it had started looking for things that were going right. It was looking for the positive. If we aren't careful as we get older, we become incredibly negative, and it feels normal and it feels natural, and it is so unfortunate. It doesn't help us. It's an illusion. And in our modern society, most of it's just a lie. Right? Yeah. It's not really the truth, because despite everything that's happening that looks bad, there is so much more beauty going on all the time. And that's why I say interactivism is the number one activism. We have to change if we want the world to transform, we have to transform ourselves. And, you mentioned this very natural feeling, about our gas guzzling SUV driving neighbors, or like anybody in our society. Like for me, it has become a discipline of like, how do I transform judgment into care? Because I know the judgment isn't going to work. So I've had to, let's put this in progressive tense, because I haven't accomplished it. I am really committed to renouncing that behavior and finding ways to connect, even if it's just in my imagination, because that is what's going to open doors.
Well, in your imagination, what I notice is that, okay, I was raised by Catholic Midwesterners, more Germans, and there's this really sort of dark sort of this dark, depressed point of view on the world. Oh, yeah, that's just the way people are, whatever. And that I have had to be intentional, and I actually will practice sometimes. So, like, I am truly a very, very happy EV driver, as you know. But instead of lecturing people about their choice, I realized I need to just, every time there's a possibility of talking about how fun it is to have an EV, I should do it because it's fun. It's like, it's a joy. There's many joyful things about making choices that benefit humanity. So, and also, instead of focusing on the latest outrage, because there is always a latest outrage, focusing on, I heard a politician today on the radio who I had never heard of. He's a Democrat from Pennsylvania, and I had never heard of him, and now I've forgotten his name, of course. And I was listening to him and really thinking, wow, this guy is so thoughtful, and he's part of the NATO parliament, and he talked about what that was, and I'm like, I'm learning things. And so I'm thinking positive thoughts about a politician rather than continuing to focus my negative energy on that big black hole that is sucking in all of our attention.
Right. And it is so important to know that there are those phenomenal people. They just often don't get reported on. And we, the people, need to insist on finding these good stories. And that's what I'm trying to do, and I've collected a lot of stuff. It's not all on my website. It's going to start, getting up there, every week, a couple of editions, like here's a resource, here's somebody to watch. And, but, bunny hopping back to, we are not going to change the world by shaming individual citizens in any way, shape, or form. The only thing that will help our world, like if we don't want big gas-guzzling SUVs, we have to organize to influence policy. And that is always a long-term exercise, which is why it's so important to find joy in the long game. Because the long game is the only one that works. Like Dr. King said, right? The history is long. The arc of history is long, but it tends toward justice. We want to get in on that arc, and we want to connect with people that are working toward changing the direction of the arc. It's the only thing that will work. It is the only thing that will work. Let me say it again. It's the only thing that will work. Yes. And we need to change ourselves on the inside first by imagining the world we want to see and really convincing ourselves it's possible. And you know how we can make it possible? By connecting with people and organizing.
Yes.
And it is.
Yes. And it's fun too. It's really fun.
It's fun.
So yeah, I think a lot of us forgot that during the pandemic. So I am going to remind you that you're listening to Talk the Bay, and this is Behind the Mic. I am speaking to Christine Barrington, who is the host and producer of a brand new show that is starting Friday at 5, Apocalyptic Supper Club.
You're tuning in to KSQD Santa Cruz 90.7 FM. Many voices, one station.
All right, everyone, we have a caller. Hello, caller, are you there?
Hello, I'm here.
Okay, excellent.
Hi. I'm told your name's John. Hi, John.
Hello. This phone call is really for Christine in her mentioning hardwired brain functions and things of that nature. There's a book she didn't mention. I don't know if she's read it or not. It's by Dan Levitin, and the name of the book is Your Brain on Music. And what happens is he put two people in separate MRI machines, functional MRI machines, so he could see real-world activity. And he asked them both the same questions. And by default, he could say, you play music and you don't, because of the areas of brain lit up within the questions that he asked, the same questions.
That's wonderful. And I will out Christine as a singer. So we are both musicians, and I, as a singer, it makes me so sad that Americans don't sing anymore. We listen.
I know.
Yeah. John, I love it that you've brought this up, and I don't know this book, but I am going to check it out because I do consider deliberately listening to music to improve our brain health, to make us better citizens. It's one of the resources I recommend. It's absolutely critical that we do. And I just read yesterday that it helps prevent dementia.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And I also would really hope, and I know it's never going to come, but that we would be required in, kindergarten through senior, that we're required to learn 3 different languages.
That would make us neuron rich for sure.
Yeah, and music is a language.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
With its writing and everything. So music fits right in there. But if we could understand other people, because people think differently in different languages. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
So get more.
I love it. Thank you so much for calling in, John.
You.
Thank you. And, as John was speaking there, I've long had this fantasy that if Congress was made to drum together, to dance together, and to sing together regularly, they just wouldn't be able to be doing what they're doing because it would completely change the chemistry, their blood chemistry. When they're together, they would connect. They would feel better about each other. In fact, talking really, really activates the amygdala. So one of the things I recommend people do as a political resource is to sit down in a quiet place with pen and paper. You're a writer, Suki. I mean, you're like a real writer. You write novels and things. And write your dreams, your visions for this country. Write it out in detail. Get into it. Enjoy it. Your brain will light up like a Christmas tree, and you will feel better, and you will now have a template toward something you can just dream toward. And I follow a group down in LA. They're called Hang Out Do Good, and they're quite large, and they didn't want to be interviewed or I'd be having them on the show. And anyway, the woman that started that group was listening to a rabbi in D.C., and she was so excited because that rabbi was recommending just this thing. And she's like, I never thought of that before. We could dream ourselves into a new world. And I'm like, it's a very, very important part before we put boots on the ground. Do we have the right dream?
This is something I did write a piece one time called Dystopian Novels Warning, Not Blueprint, because it's one of my favorite things I've ever written, because I noticed that my students, teenage students, sort of were taking, dystopia has become very, very popular among teenagers, which is fine. I love dystopian stuff when I was a teenager, but the attitude has changed. Like for me, it was, if we don't watch out, this sort of thing could happen. For them, it's almost like, what's going to happen in the future? What bad thing, And this whole idea of reading dystopian literature to make ourselves think about what we do want, instead of people are focusing on what we don't want. And when you focus on what you don't want, you tend to go toward what you don't want.
That is right. We tend to create the world we focus on. And actually, Carl Jung is one of my heroes. I don't know that everybody knows Carl Jung anymore. Young people don't all know him, but I think older generations do. And he was an absolute intuitive genius. And he developed the association test. And the association test was simply holding up words and then clocking how long it took people to respond to that word. And he described a case history where he did it with a mother and a father and a daughter. And the mother was a depressed alcoholic and the dad was a piece of work. But anyway, the daughter, the 12-year-old daughter, had the exact same timed responses as the mother and the same words as the mother. And Jung was like, okay, this is a 12-year-old girl that has the psyche of a 45-year-old depressed alcoholic. What chance does she have?
Wow.
Okay, so the things that we believe and we accept and we surrender to are the things that will be real for us. And then we create systems around these beliefs, and all so much of what we're watching, like I am just dumbstruck at how, newspapers, like the Washington Post declared what we've done in Venezuela as an American victory. That was very bold, clear statement. And I'm like, are you sure?
Isn't that sort of like saying that I, had a victory when I stepped on an ant? I mean, they went into a country that doesn't have much of a functioning anything. And
Maduro is
killed an 80-year-old grandmother. And yeah, I know.
He's a terrible human being. He's done terrible things to his nation, but we are defying laws, defying order that keeps, it's not perfect, but it's unleashing forces and that are very dangerous. But the way the press talks about it, the way the press has talked about this administration, so much gets normalized. And we do that for ourselves. We normalize the things that we pay attention to, that we repeat in our own hearts. And it's true for the negative things, but it can be true for the positive things. We can normalize these positive things, but remember, it takes 12 times as much to normalize the positive things. And that may sound Pollyannish, but I will tell you, this is the hardest work I do, is to overcome my beliefs and my conditioning. Human beings are pretty much set in stone by the time they're 35, and to change it requires a ton of effort. All our, neural nets, most of our neural nets in our brain are set, and our whole body is conditioned to believe certain things, and we pull for it like an addict. And we can change that. But I will tell you, it is heroic work. It is the most valuable thing we can do. When we're at midlife and we're finally wise enough to know what's going on, let's use our frontal cortex, our heart, our wisdom, and be like, I'm going to change me into something that can serve where the future needs to go. It's really heroic work, interactivism. So talk about your show coming up on Friday. Do you have a format that the show is going to be in? Is it free form so far? What are you going to be doing? I imagine it will evolve. So like right now, I focus on Friday's show is really focused on one organization, and I take the whole hour to focus on this organization called Red, Wine, and Blue, because what they offer is massive. I mean, I couldn't even cover everything in that hour. They offer superlative civic education. They offer superlative group organizing resources, from how to start a group, sustain a group, grow a group, ways to make what you're doing joyful. They have amazing online events, and they bring on some of the most important female thought leaders. Red, Wine, and Blue was started by suburban moms in Ohio. And let me tell you, people, do not discount Ohio. The last time women got a bee in their bonnet in Ohio, we ended up with prohibition. So Ohio women are powerful. And there's just a bunch of suburban moms that, with the election, the 2016 election, and all the book bannings and all this really negative stuff happening, these women were like, we've never done anything, but we have to get involved. And they did. And then a political veteran and media expert named Katie Paris saw what they were doing, and she was like, I can help these women really develop power. And she has helped them do that, and it's phenomenal. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So that's Red, Wine, and Blue. But then coming up next is an amazing program from Swing Left called Ground Truth. I'm very, very excited about it, which has to do with completely changing how canvassing is done. I don't know how much you want me to go into all of this, but I'm so excited about it because in a nutshell, traditional canvassing means you reach out to other Democrats, you only knock on the doors of Democrats, and now that whole thing's changing. Ground Truth is now You knock on every single door, you talk to every single person, and the people that have been in the pilot program are so lit up because they're like, I had the most amazing conversations with Republicans, and we didn't agree on everything, but we connected. And they are realizing that there's so much low-hanging fruit. There are people that the Democratic organization said, you'll never reach them, they'll never be viable, and they're like, not true. They are reachable. So very exciting things going on there, and a lot more. There's just tremendous stuff happening that we can plug into.
Yeah. So this is Behind the Mic. So tell people a little bit about what goes into creating a show and then making an episode of a show, because there's just a lot behind the scenes here at K-Squid that you guys are not seeing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the really cool thing about K-Squid is, as most listeners know, during Pledge Drive, we really play this up. This is a volunteer-run station, but the people here are really passionate and caring, and we give our time to tell the stories that light us up and give us joy. Like radio is what lights me up. Communicating with people is what lights me up. And that's why I do it. So, it's finding something that's really meaningful and then searching out for my show, the organizations and the individuals that meet my high bar. And then you have to reach out to them and ask them if they'll be interviewed and then get the interview. And then you've got to be like, some interviews are like this. We're just live and we're chatting. But sometimes, my interviews are edited because I want them to kind of last a bit longer. And my hope, what I'm working toward, is I want people to really be touched in their hearts. I want them to feel really good after listening to one of these shows, and I want them to feel lit up. And but yeah, it's a lot, from us trying to find, if we're trying to do a really original show, trying to find copyright-free music. It takes a lot of time, and editing is an amazing time sink. But I find it really satisfying, right? Because it's what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm willing to put in those hours. Yeah.
We're, I think that in community radio, we are in a place that becomes, it's like community radio has been around for a very long time, but its importance sort of waxes and wanes as far as what's going on in the culture. And right now, with the defunding of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which officially closed today, which is a sad thing. I don't know if they chose January 6th for any particular reason, but we have a situation now where a lot of professional journalists are going to be probably out of work as this trickles down, and community citizen journalists are gaining more importance again, and then that means we also have responsibilities. What do you think are your responsibilities in making the show and bringing this information to people?
Yeah, well, it is a very high responsibility to take up people's time. Of course, they have the choice to tune out, so hopefully produce something that people want to keep listening to. I want to take a moment before I talk about what we do to really give a shout out to the profession of journalism, which I tell people I am not a journalist. I am a citizen programmer. Journalists deserve far more respect than they get. They put so much on the line. It's risky work. If they're really trying to dig into something and tell us the truth about it, they deserve better treatment. They've been absolutely maligned. So, but bunny hopping back to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, I was reading an email that was sent out from the National Federation for Community Broadcasters, which we get their write-ups, their email exchange, and they published a letter today from CPB, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and I just was reading it as it winds down, and I thought, wow, stations like ours have so much more responsibility. We are now much more important. We're small, but it's really valuable because as these mighty oaks get felled by the administration, I call community engagement, community radio, all these community-based organizing things. It's the mycelial model. You know, you nourish it, give it a bit of water, and all these mushrooms sprout up, and they're able to communicate across the forest floor, and it's really hard to wipe out all of us mushrooms. So I think if anybody's been listening to the historian Heather Cox Richardson, she has been talking about a very similar thing happened during the time of the robber barons, right before the really powerful birth of the New Deal. The robber barons were buying up publications and trying to push through their agendas, and it caused a proliferation of citizen journalism. We have no idea what's going to come. We know amazing things are happening on Substack. It's still forming, you know, how you find the good journalists. But there's amazing stuff happening there, but we have to hunt it up. But that's what I do. So folks, once again, I'm always looking for the writers who are presenting quality information, doing their research, expressing it in a way that is calm. Mm-hmm. They're not just regurgitating the same news cycle that everyone else is. This is how I curate my Substack. If people are doing that, I unsubscribe.
Yes. I no matter whether I agree with someone or not, one of the metrics that I have developed since the pandemic, really, because I started noticing it, was if something tweaks me, if it isn't just, oh, this sounds like a fascinating subject, or I don't know about this, I want to learn more, but instead it's this, ooh, this is grabbing, you know, it's igniting this sort of negative energy in me, whether or not it's something I agree with, do not click.
Yeah.
And unsubscribe if anybody engages in that behavior. I give them a pass once in a while.
Yeah. And these are the things I'll be talking about. Like, these are the practices that we can engage as citizens who really want to help shape the future. Look for people that make you feel better through maybe not telling you what you want to hear, but giving you quality information and doing it with integrity. And there are many of those people out there, and we've got to help each other find them. And, you know, there's just have hope. You know, we're heading into a lot of trouble, but we can inspire one another. And Fred Ross, do you know who Fred Ross is, Suki? Fred Ross is the man that trained Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta in organizing skills. He also helped people coming through from the Dust Bowl. He was an early organizer, and he said, organizers need to be social arsonists. They have to go around setting people on fire. We need to look for those people that set us on fire and get us excited for a future that we can build, and we need to enjoy doing some of this work, and we only have to do some, not all.
All right, we have just a couple minutes. Tell us about the Supper Club aspect of this. Why Supper Club?
Well, it's multivalent. Part of it is just getting this yummy, you know, I serve up stories to feed and nourish your inner citizen. But there's also, I encourage people to hold an Apocalyptic Supper Club. And the model is basically reach out to people you know who might not be engaged, and they probably are a little afraid to be engaged. Say, I want you to come on over, and we're going to talk about what's possible, and I guarantee you're going to feel good afterward. And bring people together, invite them to share a little bit about how they're feeling so they can get that off their chest. But then share some of these hopeful things that I'm putting out there, and never argue, never try to convince, never tell people what to do. And I will have templates on my site to say, like, this is how you can hold an Apocalyptic Supper Club. Get together with people, share, and you can go forward into the future feeling much better about the potential that we can actuate. And I also want to say that, like, people who were in countries that were taken over by authoritarianism said the number one thing they wish they had were circles of people that they knew they could trust and rely on. So prepare now. Build those circles now.
All right. Do a little pitch for your show on Friday.
a pitch
do
for
a
my
pitch.
show?
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
'cause
Join
Christine,
me Friday at
yes.
5 for the Apocalyptic Supper Club, where I'm serving up stories and ideas to nourish your heart and mind and help you understand that you matter and you can make a greater impact than you ever thought possible.
Thank you, Christine Barrington. I am looking forward to hearing your first show.